Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zenful Conversations. My name is Zenjen Brown, and we are smack in the middle somewhere. I'm not sure of the dates of the Summer of Love poetry series. And what does that mean? It just means that we're getting around, having conversations, having workshops, and sharing the energy of love. And today I'm here with Maureen Schlemp. Yes?
Yes, you got it
Okay,
right.
wonderful. Hey, so Maureen, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking part in this Summer of Love series. Thank you for being here. Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome, welcome. And what I'm curious to know is what made you say, "Hey, I'd like to do this." What called you to do this?
Well, it coincided with me getting back into writing poetry. Uh, I've been, I started writing poetry when I was a kid, and um, and then in college, I studied poetry writing, and and then I did poetry for, I don't know, maybe about 5 years after college. And then, I started a family and all that kind of stuff. And I worked full time and I traveled all the time for work. And the type of work that I was doing was writing, but it was, your general business writing in terms of, I was the head of marketing for the companies that I worked for. And so we had lots of deadlines for everything, and things were going to go on without us if we didn't make those deadlines. And so it became easy for me to just write, whatever it was, whether it was, back in the day, it wasn't a blog, it might have been an article, it might have been an essay, it might have, been something a newsletter that went out. And then it got into advertising writing and social media and blogs and all of the more modern kinds of writing. And I always just, had through all of that, through 50 years, I wanted to write poetry again. And when I retired, it took me like 5 years to actually retire. And they kept calling me back, and then other people wanted my help with something or whatever. So I'm completely retired now, and just decided to get back into writing poetry. And then I, was digging out some of my old stuff from when I was, late teens, early 20s. And at least for me, not all of them, but some of them really held up. So I was just like, that's kind of cool. So
Wow. So all these years later, it's like, oh my gosh, that is, see, this is our true self back in there,
yeah, yeah,
trying to tell us this
yeah,
probably multiple points throughout our life.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And then I also, in looking back, saw that, yeah, about once every 5 years or so, I did write a poem, and just kind of looking at that, and then finally sitting down. I mean, the first poem that I wrote when I started back doing poetry was a poem about someday writing poetry. And then the second one, and there's only been two so far, was something that I had on my mind for a long time and wanted to get it out, and finally sat down and did that. And so, and it is about my relationship with my husband. And so I thought that kind of fit in with your summer of love. So
Oh, wonderful.
all of
Well,
that
gosh,
apply.
no, well, hey, that's what this is about. It's called conversation. It's not question and answer. Um, I'm really loving the opportunity to sit and chat with everybody. So I do appreciate you being here, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you sharing. And I just love where it all goes, because a reminder to everybody that these are unscripted and unedited. Um, so neither of us really know. We may have some notes or something, which I don't today. I'm not even sure how we met. Were you, have you come to any of my workshops?
I had not. I went
You
to
had not.
one, didn't you just have one a few,
I
maybe?
mean, in person or not in person?
No, it was on Zoom,
No,
but
on Zoom.
I did go
Oh,
to one
recently, yeah.
recently, but I kind of stayed in the background on that one, just trying to
Yeah, well, that's
figure it out,
okay.
you
That's
know,
okay, but do try to pop in. I mean, honestly, they're going on, I think, almost every Thursday throughout the end of August. In this series, and they're I think all the ones through the end of August are co-hosted with a poet, which so it's very nice, very amazing that they're actually sharing their time and talents with us to do it as well. But yeah, try to come show up for what you can come, because this practice is important, and you're not the first person to say that they waited to retire, or they always knew when they would retire they would be able to write their stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So
and
this is the
learning
time
of
to
that
do
one.
it.
Yeah. And then I had seen somehow or another you were on Facebook, or I found something, or a promotion for a workshop or whatever. And so I kind of went out and tried to understand who you were and where you were and all this stuff. And I saw some photos of you at Heartwood. And so I said, well, I never met this person, and for a half a second there, I was wondering if those were new photos and that, you were taking over Hartwood.
Oh, I had considered it. I had considered it. I had considered it's not an everyday opportunity that comes along
Right,
when you're presented even the slightest option to buy a 7.5 acre retreat center.
right.
And if I was in my 30s, I might have done it.
Yep.
But being that I'm 61, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
Um, but no, I started it at Heartwood. I stepped foot in that door in September 2018 is when I first
great.
started at Heartwood. And I was very, very different than I am right now. Um,
In what way?
Nowhere near, oh my goodness, girlfriend. It's been a long healing journey. I'm about 10 years out now on this healing journey. Well, first of all, I was platinum blonde, and I'm almost 100 pounds more than I am right now when I started at Heartwood.
Oh,
Very,
that's
very different
amazing.
woman. I fell in love with myself again, at Heartwood. It was the philosophy of yoga. I had not been involved with yoga all my life. I wasn't involved with much more than overworking and overstimulating to avoid the reality of life.
Yeah,
Until my body and mind both, about a year and a half separation there, said, hey, this game is changing. And so I guess part of my reason for doing what I do is to try to get women to really care about themselves, because it's been a long journey to pick myself back up
yeah.
and put myself back together. And I know darn well, though, if I can do it, that everybody can, or most people can. So I guess that's part of it. But yeah, so when I started learning about yoga and understood that it really doesn't, in my mind, have much to do with the poses.
Right.
It's all this philosophy and all this other stuff. It blew my mind, the subjects, the information that was coming my way. So as soon as I got my first initial 200 hour, I went right into the advanced to get my 500 hour. And then I did these other little certifications. And then Ginny had put together the program for the yoga therapy certification. And do you know she was one of like 68 schools worldwide that offered that program that she put together?
Well,
And so I just went right ahead and continued taking those because it was like yoga therapy for Alzheimer's, yoga therapy for heart condition, yoga therapy for cancer, for death, dying, and caregiving. It was like the subjects were just so rich.
right.
And it's all about my healing still. And so anyway, so I ended up going all the way through that. I don't know if there's still 68 schools. There might be more now. It was an emerging field a couple years back.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I actually began that program before COVID
that's
and
amazing.
just finished it in October of 24.
Well, that's great. That's
It was
great.
amazing. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I'm glad you found that.
yeah, well, me too. But I'll tell you, one of the things, and that's why I'm in this little writing groove now, because I haven't been a writer. I have up until like the past few years, rather new at expressing emotions, right? Um, but anyway, in that yoga therapy program, one of the things I learned was some of these healing modalities are across the board. It doesn't really matter what you're trying to or working to heal with, from, through. Getting out in nature is one of the healing modalities that's across the board. Writing, you got to know what's going on in your head to try to figure it out, kind of thing. And a couple other ones, movement. We need some movement on a therapeutic level. Um, so the writing, when I was, to get that certification, you've got to work one on one with people for so many hundred hours to show that you could actually do it. And I was like, every single one of my plans have writing. We've got to know what's going on in order to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, okay, that's my next step. Let me settle in here for a little bit. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah, well, that's great. My two daughters were in um, a program in elementary school that was called Family School, and it was not available for everybody, but it was at just your regular elementary, and there were like 5 classes or something that did that. And so I was doing some volunteering there, and essentially I was listening to kids read, and that's all. I'm just listening. And through that, um, I thought to myself, these kids would benefit from some sort of creative writing. And I approached the teacher because I was a high school English teacher. So, I could do this, and asked if I could put on a program for these kids. It would be like a 6-week program, and we would write poetry, we would write plays, we would write, short stories, whatever it was. And she graciously said, yes, you can do this. So I went to the classroom twice a week. And so the first day of the week, we talked about whatever it was that we were going to be, form of writing. And then, the second day I was there, they would share. And so it was absolutely a phenomenal experience because these were fourth and fifth graders.
I
Third,
love that they
fifth grade.
shared
Oh,
that you had them share, because that sharing is such a huge step. Uh, it
didn't
really is,
bother
because
them at all. It was
I
like,
know, but you know
everybody
why?
was
Because
raising their hand.
they're young.
I know. It was
They
so
don't have these
great.
hang-ups that we have.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
But that's the thing with these intimate circles that we do on the Zoom here with the writing workshops, is you have the opportunity to write, and you have the opportunity to share. You don't have to share, but gosh, when we share,
yeah. Yeah, and the kids they just absolutely loved this. And so
Isn't that something?
like the first thing I did was just, say, okay, this is a club. We, whoever wants to be there, because the first day, I don't know, there were probably 28, 30 kids in the classroom, and we had maybe 12 kids from the classroom, and you didn't have to participate if you didn't want to. They were off doing other things, the rest of the students. By the second time, second week, the whole class was in there. And then
Yeah, you made it a club.
it was it was so funny. And anyway, they call themselves the Shakespeare Writing Club. So and they came up with the name and everything. It was great. It
Awesome.
was a good experience.
Awesome. 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 And you were mentioning to me that you had taken the children's yoga. Is that before that or after that or?
No, the teaching was a very long time ago. And
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, when my kids were my daughters are 41 and 42 now. So it was when
Yeah.
they were in third and fifth grade. So it's
Right.
been a while, but it was just a really good experience for them. They loved it. And we did a compilation of some works from every kid, and they made a book, and there was a contest for, somebody, those that like to draw or whatever, paint, they would come up with a design for the cover, and we put this thing together, and all the kids loved it. They loved,
Wow.
they loved seeing their name and their poem in there. It was really,
Wow. What a brilliant idea.
it was good.
You only did that once?
I yes, I only did that once. I need to do
Oh,
it again. Maybe I
that's
should just
interesting.
do it.
Well, or even online.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not as hard as it seems.
You make it look easy. I don't know that
Well,
it's that
no,
hard.
you know what I'm doing, girlfriend? I am letting loose of perfection. This is my practice and releasing it. I'm like, because it stops me from doing things at times, uh and there's going to be people to judge me regardless, no matter how much effort I put into it. Some people are going to say this or that, so
Yeah,
um I'm just doing it and I don't care. And really right now the way I'm feeling, well, I don't know. My daughter's 40 as well. She's 40. She turned 40 in 24. Um and I just think at this age stage of the game, I'm looking for some more authentic stuff. It seems to me that everything is so darned polished
yeah,
that I am happy to be here showing everybody that we can have conversation without it being, yeah, not even edited, but not even polished at all. So
yeah,
um thanks again for taking part in it, because there is some question on, you mean it's not edited, or you're not going to give me any notes on what you're going to ask me, and I'm like, well, no, it's just conversation
right.
basically. And part of it is your writing practice, sharing your right, what your what's, your whys, um maybe how this taps into our inner peace, because we're living in a very strong energies going on in this world. So I'm looking for ways to share and find how to soften it and how to keep ourselves uplifted
Right.
in this time. So I think that's all part of this summer of love
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And I right now just really have well, I've got several different um, types of active meditation that I do. And some of it is just like walking my dog, that's an active meditation.
Absolutely.
Writing the poetry or whatever comes out um, is also active meditation. And then I don't know if you're familiar with rock dotting. You ever heard of rock dotting?
Well, yeah, the mandalas on the
Yeah, and the rock.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I've been doing
yeah.
that for a number of years as well. And it takes a lot for me to be able to do that because I have a head tremor and hand tremor. So it doesn't offer any
Oh,
assistance. I mean, I got to really work at that, putting that dot exactly where I want it. And if
it's
not,
probably very therapeutic for you.
it's
It's
very, it
probably
is.
wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And, um, I've sold some of the things that I've made, but I prefer to give them away. So I just give them as gifts all the time. And people like it, seem to like it okay. They're probably putting it in a drawer after I leave.
Oh no, those kind of handmade things that are made with love, you can't beat it.
Yeah,
And again, it goes back to the perfectly polished things. This
yeah,
is genuineness, especially with this whole world of AI. Um, and I'm not saying that I'm totally against it or totally for it. I'm just saying it's in our world these days. I just also think the more real things are gonna be of more value. I think the imperfections are we're gonna ace this project. We're gonna come out on top. The more
that's good.
ragged you look, the better. No, I mean, I just think authenticity and realness is, well, I don't know. Sometimes I do think that that's going with aging, and the world that we used to live in is quite not the same. I can't seem to locate it too much, except in these circles of people.
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate the opportunity to participate and, share. So thank you for being here and doing this.
Oh yeah, well, too, the more we put into things, the more we get out of them. So, and that's probably why I usually jump in, because if I'm going to do it, let me just do it.
Yeah.
I don't like toting around the edges. Let me just go straight for the center there. So back to your writing practice, then you don't have a regular routine of writing yet?
I don't. I mean, did back when I started writing, I wrote every day and it wasn't a poem, but it was something. I did a lot of journaling. And that's something that I haven't kept up per se, but I've gone back to throughout all the years. And you know, and then there's just life, and whether it's something that's really incredible or something new or something sad, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt that our time can be sucked away by a myriad of different avenues all at the same time sometimes.
But I guess what I was trying to say is that I find um, things that grab me or that I gravitate toward in all that, the mundane kind of everyday things in life. And the really expansive and wonderful or super sad things in life, all of it. And so that's what what I try to tap into when I write is there's just, there's an idea and it just keeps rolling around in my head and it's nothing more than an idea at that point. Something else has sparked that idea, um, but it just sits in front of me. And then so that's what happened to me with this latest poem. And and that's how I want it to happen. But you have to be extremely open and you have to be paying attention, in the present moment in order to have those things come into your view that then become something to write about.
Do you give yourself time and space to receive that most of the time?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm working on it. I'm always, I'm really working on it instead of thinking about working on it. So I know that that things do come in.
Well, this is the time that we promised ourselves we're going to do it, and if we don't do it now, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and that's another reason I love this age stage of the game that we're at, because you know what? We have really done enough over in that column. We could be as 100% selfish as we wanted to. Not that we would, but if we wanted to, and it still would probably not balance out. So we can afford ourselves the gift of doing what we want. But do you have the poems? Will you be comfortable reading?
Sure.
So this is, as I understand it correctly, this is your second poem back.
Yeah, this is my latest
Cool.
second poem back.
That's cool. No, that's cool. Hot off the presses, everybody.
No, it's called When We Were Young. I've been thinking lately about the day we spent in Vondel Park, the sounds of 100 children and birds and bicycles humming, eating baguettes and cheese, and drinking white wine while the sun bathed our bodies. We stole away to a quiet place and fell in love in each other's arms, sharing our dreams and secrets that day when we were young. Do you ever think about the day we spent together in Vondel Park, being serenaded by street musicians, our laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves as we etched whispered promises into ancient trees? Remember the kinship we felt with the dreamers at the youth hostel we stayed at in the red light district? Sharing magical moments in Dom Square with storytellers from around the world, we swooned over each other and the Rembrandts in the Reich Museum. Hand in hand, we walked on cobblestone streets for hours, manifesting an undeniable spark that radiated through everyone nearby. Surrounded by our fleeting innocence that echoed in the sweet music spilling from cafes, we got drunk on the scent of old bookstores and began to weave the tapestry of our own story. 50 years have passed since then, almost a lifetime. Now we spend much of the day in separate rooms of a house in which we did not raise our daughters and son, hoping that our deep love for our grandchildren translates across thousands of miles. Passing each other on the way to pickleball and yoga, our hands touch as we share a smile and linger, acknowledging a glimmer of the spirit and passion we still feel that enveloped us that day in Vondel Park when we were young. There it is.
Wow. That is awesome. Let me just take a breath and take that in. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
It relays the feeling pretty nicely there. I really was with that. That was very lovely.
Thank you. That's kind of what, I mean, you get older and I mean, nothing stays the same.
No, but I think, for me anyway, it's quite reflective at this point in stage. Um, there's all right. You can see a lot more, a lot of what you went through, no, just a lot of life experiences. We are also deciding what's good to keep in our psyche and what's not,
Right.
and it's neat that what I love about in that poem is that you asked him if he thinks about that too.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting. And I will say I'm more familiar with women than men on these things. So I don't know how different they are in their thought processes like that, just of my own observation from experiences that I've had. But on that note, I would say that they're probably the guys or the partners are probably in that same reflective state of mind. Um, so we're drawing inward,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah, inward and attempting to also share outwardly, you know.
Yeah, yeah, which is pretty cool. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
And it's great. I hear that you're with an active person, which is quite lovely too. And 50 years is pretty neat, girl.
yeah, it's next June. It's 50 years.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, thank
Congratulations on that.
you.
Yeah, that's something I'll never be able to have.
Well, maybe that's not as important as other things in your life.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but that's, I mean, it is, I'm not, there's enough. There's enough.
Yeah. And
Uh,
my husband is very reflective. He does a lot in retirement. He is also a writer and a musician. And so he writes but his instrument that he plays is the dulcimer. Are you familiar
mhm,
with the dulcimer?
I am. It's like sits in your lap.
Yeah, sits in your lap, string instrument.
Yeah.
And so, he's been writing songs I mean, he's got, who knows, 150 songs that he's written in the last
That's cool.
five,
That's
6
cool.
years.
Mm.
And
No, years ago I was involved in a folk club.
oh,
Actually, I used to be in a three-piece acoustic uh ensemble there. I played the bongos, the percussion. I was a percussionist, bongos and light stuff, tambourine, congas, stuff like that, vocal backups. But this was with my ex-husband, and that was in my 20s.
yeah.
In my 20s. Although I'm still a percussionist now, it's just sound bowls and
There you go.
well, it's pretty neat to see. Wow, how when I happen to have percussion in my background. So when this whole sound healing came around, it just laid really perfectly. Um, but yeah, that's how I know about that instrument from my folk club days.
Yeah.
My ex-husband was the bad boy of folk, and we were the barefoot doctors. Yeah, yeah. So
Those
he
are,
was the bad boy of folk because it ruffled a lot of feathers back in the day. This
yeah.
is a long time ago now. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago, 40-ish years, or somewhere 35, between 30 and 40 years ago, depending on what age, because it was pretty much my whole 20s there. Um, but So not only did he ruffle feathers by making it probably little too, we brought in a little bit of the rock element to it, but also I was part of the band, and back then, and all the wives wanted to be part of it, and it really upset a lot of the guys. I was like, now my wife's got to get involved because she's doing.
Yeah. I want it to be my thing, huh?
But anyway, that was fun back then. Really, that was fun back then.
Yeah.
Um, so um, then you do give yourself time and space to be open to receive.
Yes, I do.
Is it a part of do you actually sit each day at a certain time, or when inspiration comes through, or do you stop everything you're doing, or once a week, or what do you do?
I'm all over the place with that. But I do try to take a couple of hours in a room by myself every day,
Mm,
and I mean, I could be just sitting and thinking, I could be reading something. I'm exploring in a more real sense, like by doing things, just spirituality as a whole. Um, and so, I try to read things and understand what that means for other people as well as me, and how it manifests itself in, and so that you can use it, you can see it, you could be it, in writing or talking to people, helping others, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is this the room you give yourself to sit in, or is it a different space?
Sometimes, believe it or not, it's in my bedroom, in my bed. I'll sit there and read. And sometimes, more often, it's this room. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It used to be the working room, the office, but it's not the office anymore.
Right. Well, our environment lends itself to that, you know.
Expand on that.
Um, well, a softer environment helps the mind just change its way of, I would say, thinking. I like the idea of setting myself up pretty interestingly. I've got a whole little setup over here. This is my little corner. It's not more than the corner in my living room now, but I got this chair. I got it for my 60th birthday, specifically to start my little writing project. So over here in my little table, I've got "To Thine Own Self Be True." I have a whole bowl of crystals and stuff. I've got a singing bowl, and I've got these amazing things here. Poet, well, storyteller. She doesn't quite care for the word poet because it puts too much pressure on her, you know. And to me, it's not what we label. It's just everybody's a poet in my mind. But Liesl Graham is an amazing poet. And she also has a practice of word stitching. She likes words, obviously. Um, but she actually had a lot of trauma in her life, and one of the ways she works with that is by doing little word stitching. And so these have become my little mantras. Like, I'll take one of them and either I either meditate with it, or maybe I write with it, maybe I sit and do some yoga. It doesn't, to me, all it's all the same.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to share these because this one especially, and this has been on my Facebook page too. I refuse to be an enemy to my own life.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice if it worked every day?
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, well, that's why I'm like, okay, I've got a thick head here. So that's why I doing it like this. And this one too. I'm just gonna go through them. In every moment, I am saving myself.
That's a good one.
I am not afraid of tomorrow.
That's good.
I do not mourn my past. I am unfolding into myself.
That's great.
I am a tender kindness to my own life. And I am brave enough for this. And
Very good.
actually, it's a nice little book there. Um, yeah, so they're big on setting up the experience. Um, so I don't know. I would just probably redecorate and
Yeah,
let the office part
yeah,
take back seat now, because soul is emerging forward now,
yeah,
and maybe partition or something. Give yourself a little cozy spot.
yes.
Uh,
I could use a cozy chair in here, that's for sure.
well, it's and then, because the more the physical body is comfortable, then the breath gets more comfortable, the thoughts get more comfortable. We get into the deeper layers of our being. So I don't know how much or what, if that's even valid, but my mind's saying it is.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely
um,
need to do something in here.
well, just to make it a little bit more comfortable for you, because if you this is your time now. You're saying you're now stepping into this.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
stepping into this now. Um, do you have any ambition to to actually write a book or anything?
Um, I I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I mean, I would like to again make a just keep writing poetry and then make that into a book. My husband wrote this his first year of retirement. He wrote sort of like a diary kind of thing, but also like each day it was like a lesson learned in his first year of retirement. And he wrote a book
Oh,
and
he has a book published?
the book published. It's what is
How
it?
about that?
Retirement, the first 365 days. And he has sold probably, I mean, I know it's over 13,000 books. It's
Wow.
like really incredible that that little thing happened from that. But yeah, he had fun doing it.
That's cool. Well, it's definitely a good title, and everybody wants to know,
Yeah.
because it's a well, my Steve here is turning 65, and he just signed up for Medicare.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting time of life, and there are changes going on. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, depending on what your work history has been, on how different it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's so that's great. Well, then there would be a competition.
He would love it if I wrote a book, but I don't know that I have. Like I said, I'd like to just concentrate on poetry, and if I come up with enough things that I think are worthwhile, I
Yeah,
suppose I'll put them into a book.
yeah, yeah. Let's just focus on making it happen. I don't know if I'm ever going to want to do a book. I think, well, yeah. I don't. Let me make a poem. Let me make one. Let me do one, because I do this wild writing, but I haven't gone back to try to form anything like that. And I suspect at some point I will, as I grow and learn through this. But I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I'll get as involved in it as I want to.
Right.
Um, but when it comes to publishing, to me, that's a whole nother level of vulnerable.
Yeah, my husband really got into George is his name. He really got into the technology of it, because his book's on Amazon, and how to get it up on that first page as a result all the time. And he figured all this out himself. He didn't have any help from anyone, and he did a great job. I mean, I can't believe how many books he sold. I
Yeah.
he said that most writers who self-publish um, sell under 250 books.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So he understood the game.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
So tell me what other you mentioned a little bit about other practices. What does a day in the life of Maureen look like?
Um, I wake up early, usually between 6 and 7, and have a cup of coffee and just sit. And and George and I have like coffee time, so we just sit and talk with each other for a bit. And then I'm, going to a yoga class. um, I have been trying other types of exercise. Um, and so I've gone to Pilates now. I'm starting to go to Pilates,
I
and
enjoy the Pilates myself. I really do.
yeah, with a reformer, or do you do floor Pilates?
No, just I'm a Zoom. I do a lot of stuff on Zoom. I share it with. I've got a community of women, so I do with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in that though. I have enough people saying it's a cool thing to get involved with, that reformer.
Yeah. I don't know. I've only gone to probably half a dozen classes, but
Hmm.
um, and then I've done bar classes that I really like.
Mm.
And have you ever heard of gyrotonics?
Mm-mm.
It's the equipment, if you use the equipment, looks a lot like a Pilates reformer, but but it's not a reformer, and it has components of the machine that you would hold on to and do circular type motions, and it's a lot about breathing and circular motions, and
Cool.
and it's mostly about breathing mostly about breathing, but then there's these other things, and it's either done, if you're not using the machines, then it's done, you sit on a stool and you do a lot of exercises on the stool and then on the floor. And but every motion is like one motion and then the opposite motion, you know and it's
Cool.
really kind of interesting.
Well, that goes with the breath. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the whole
exactly.
thing, the in and out, the whole flow of it all. That sounds really cool. And you're in Sarasota?
In Bradenton.
You're in Bradenton.
Yeah. But I think that gyrotonics that I go to is in Sarasota. I also do some volunteer work. I work at the um, Women's Exchange in Sarasota.
Mhm.
Have you ever been there?
Mm-mm.
It's just
No.
it's a consignment shop, um, but proceeds go to scholarships for kids that go into any of the kinds of arts in college, and it supports many of the local theaters and music venues and that sort of thing. And,
Awesome.
and so I do that, and then I also work occasionally. The exchange I go to every Wednesday afternoon, but the Manatee Art Center I go to just when they have events there, and I'll help out.
Wow, you busy woman.
So I do keep busy.
Yeah. Well, I hear so many people say, if not busier when they retire than they were when they were working.
Yeah.
Like, my God, it's a little bit scary. I'm looking to, wanting to chill out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's plenty of time for chilling too. I mean, I don't, I'm not busy. I try to, except for the art center, I and the exchange, I try to be done with all my stuff um, between noon and 2 in the afternoon, and then I chill.
Oh, and do you find your writing would be in the after at the end of the day there, or usually more in the mornings?
I think I don't know how it's going to turn out right now, but I feel like I have the most energy in the mornings, which is why I do all my stuff then. Um, so I don't know whether to interject some time in the mornings to write or just let it flow.
Right, right. I'm seeming personally to gravitate towards the end of the day there because I feel like I did all my stuff I need to do.
Right.
So now I can sit for a few minutes. The mornings are challenging for me because I feel like I've got stuff I've got to do.
Yeah.
So I can't really give consciously my brain's a little bit still on this, probably putting myself a little bit towards the end,
Yeah.
no matter how much practice I've had with that. I'm assuming that's all part of that. But I'll say most of the poets I talk with, they're in the morning.
Yeah.
They wake up and do it. Not all of them. Even Rosemary Watola Tromer, she's an amazing. You know who Rosemary is? Oh, she writes a poem a day, and she's been writing a poem a day since 2006.
Wow. That would be great.
She's amazing. Uh, and there's so many amazing ones that I've been able to stumble upon here during this whole process, and it's just amazing that um, that I'm gifted the opportunity to speak with all of you. Um, but yeah, she writes at night,
Oh.
and half the time she's dozing off. But she writes, and she says part of her practice though is the stillness. It's not always writing.
Right.
The writing practice is a lot thought,
Yes. Yeah, I would agree
a
with
lot thought. Yeah. So let me go back to your poem, and would you feel comfortable reading your other one or more of your writings at all?
that.
But I'm wondering about that revision process. Like, so when it first came into you, what was the process of forming it into something you're saying, all right, I got a poem and darn it, I'm going to share this today.
Um, well, I mean, my process of writing is, I have to have an idea, a strong idea that won't leave me alone. And in this case, um, I I knew that I wanted to write about um, the changes that occur in a relationship over from when you're young to when you're old. And so I knew I wanted to do that. And I knew that for me, I fell in love with George. We were dating for a little bit before we went on this European vacation for 3 months when we were 20 years old. And it was actually the second summer that I spent in Europe backpacking. And the first year I went with, who was the woman who was my roommate as a freshman and sophomore in college. And the second time I went with George. And it was literally a moment in Vondel Park in Amsterdam where I fell in love with this man. So I knew that that moment had to be the when I was young part, you know. And then, I was thinking a lot about, like I said, George writes songs, he does all this stuff and everything. But so he's sitting in another room at our house a lot of the day, and I'm sitting either here or I'm out and about doing the things that I need to get done. And I started thinking about how we don't really spend that much time together anymore. And there's a lot of crossing each other,
Yeah, I recognize that myself.
Yeah, so he goes to dulcimer class or pickleball. I go to yoga or some other place, wherever it is. And so we literally, physically are crossing each other on the way to and from places. And so I knew that that had to be the change I wrote about in the now part. So I don't, I mean, I suppose if I read one of my old poems, it might
Well,
clarify.
no, I'm just wondering about, so like once you had that whole idea and it came out though, how much revision,
I
like
didn't,
how much work did you do with it before you said it's ready?
I had the whole thing down um, fairly quickly. Um, I mean, I didn't do it all in one sitting, but it was more like I spent a half an hour here and then another half an hour there and that sort of thing.
Mm.
But I did get it all down. And then I thought, this doesn't have the pizzazz that it needs, I mean, I was just like, and so then I really went back into my own head and tried to remember those juicy little details of that trip, even though it was 50 years ago, and what it felt like to be in Vondel Park and what the sights and sounds were, the things that we did while we were there. And so I had, that was the additional stuff, so picking out that level of detail, is that I want picking out the level of details, which ones I wanted in the poem.
Right.
And then and then I had George read it, and um, and he had a few suggestions. He didn't have that many suggestions, but he had a few suggestions. And one of his suggestions was like my lines were very long. And so he said, try see what happens if you break it up into, shorter lines, make longer stanzas, make more stanzas if you need them. And so that's how it ended up, is which he was absolutely right. I mean, everybody needs an editor, I think. And
No, it's a nice piece of work. There's no doubt about it. But that's interesting. And I gotta say, it's pretty gutsy uh to write about a relationship with our partner. Um, but it's also a good way to keep him on his toes because he knows you're gonna write about it.
yeah, I mean, these little ditties that he writes, and sings and plays. It's more of for him, the musician side of things. And what he writes is, he writes it in a very meticulous way and pays attention to the syllables and the flow and the sound. And I don't pay attention to any of that.
Oh, well,
It
that's
is,
it's
it,
well,
it comes out that way. To me, I feel like there is a flow. And if there's something that I get stuck on when I read it out loud, I will change that to improve the flow. But I don't start out thinking about that at all.
no, well, that's what from what I'm gathering anyway. Let it come out, divine message onto the page. And then there's an art to this, putting it together and forming it. Um, Coming up in September, we will have a Zoom conversation with Maya Stein, and she is a poet and talks some wonderful talk on revision.
Yeah.
that honestly, both you and your husband could both tune into that if you're interested. It's on a Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, okay.
But there's some good conversations coming up. One is about the revision, one's about the creative process with Rosemary Watala Tromer and Christy Ashwanden. They have a podcast title called Emerging Form, and they talk about our our process a lot. And what else is there? Ginny from Heartwood is going to be on there. She just wrote a book, her second book, um, The Enlightened Writer. So, first of all, Ginny gives a lot of conversation and does virtual groups as writing memoir.
Yes.
Um, but in this book, she's the enlightened writer. She brings the philosophy of yoga to the page and talks a bit about that. So I think, honestly, I think all of those conversations are going to be beneficial. And then there's Brooke Warner of She Writes Press. That it might be even something to listen to. But yeah, there's a whole art in that revising.
Yeah. And, I mean, the types of writing that I've been doing while I was working, I have had a very specific process for doing that kind of writing, but I don't even remember when I wrote back when in my 20s, in teens, that I had a particular process. I think I was experimenting the whole time, with different types or styles and how to do it. But I know I really enjoyed it, um, and it is extremely therapeutic, I think, for all writers.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think so anyway, too. Did you say you had another piece of work you'd like to share, or not necessarily? I don't want you to feel forced, but I certainly want you to have the space if you'd like to, because I enjoyed that. I thought was very good.
Thank you. This one is called Words. Um, I wrote it after I have an aunt that's an acting coach. She used to be in New York and now she's in LA. And when I lived in New York, in Syracuse, New York, for a few years, and I would go down to New York City to visit her. And she was telling me this story about her being with my grandfather um, on his last days. And so this is her story that I wrote. uh, curled in your pink flannel and Afghan, speaking words from your diary. His death was a relief. The wrinkle in your eye told another story. We should have covered the mirrors before he died. Thin bones hidden in trousers, gathered at his hips. Belt, needing yet another adjustment. We were wrong to think he couldn't smell his own death. We choked on it for 9 months. He wanted to overdose on insulin, his life source. He slept alone, clutching at his pillow as if it could replace his rotting stomach. He never wanted me to be an actress. Never. How many times oh, I want you to bring to my grave 2 things, he said to me. 2 things, Sherla. Bring to my grave your husband and the sign the one with your name in lights.
Oh, my goodness, girl. Oh, you write some powerful stuff.
Comes out.
I love that you write about relationships.
Yeah. And I want to write about a lot more of them and about other things too.
Oh, is that poem one?
No,
No.
no, that's poem from when I was back in college.
Wow. That's amazing.
The thing was for them, this is my mother's sister, but there's like 20 years in between them. My mother passed a long time ago. But this is my Aunt Sharon. And the story she was telling me this story as it unfolded, but it was a bigger story, which was really that um, they being my grandmother and my Aunt Sharon and her other two sisters decided not to tell my grandfather that he was dying of cancer.
Mm,
And I think they all regretted that, because
mm,
it did kind of make him feel so alone, I think.
mm.
But at the time, I think they probably just couldn't bring themselves to say it to him.
You know, who knows why we do things? Why we go one way or another, or any of that. Um, there's a line in one of Dana Fall's poems, FAULDS, Dana Falls, that says this stuff of life may not be ours to understand. And sometimes I hang on to that. I can't remember the name of that poem, but it says that pretty much in there, that who knows why we do this or share the way for a while or a day and then say goodbye. But that is a very powerful poem. Again, the setting, the emotion, and I visualize it so well. The description of the emotion, I think, which is really very cool. Um, yeah.
She lived in a old warehouse, so it was like a whole floor in this warehouse in New York City, and it was just vast. This, but very bohemian, and so there was like a little living room space, and then a bedroom space, and then this big open space, and then another bedroom, but it was a huge bedroom. And she lived on the fifth floor, and it was all walk up, and when somebody came to visit, they were to go to the telephone at right below her apartment and call her up, and she'd open up the window and throw down the keys in a sock, and that's how you got in, so that you wouldn't have to come all the way down the 5 flights of stairs
How
just to
about
let
that?
in.
Yeah, she knew the lockbox code. How about that? Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that one.
Thank you for letting
A
me.
little bit. Yeah, well, they're personal.
Yeah.
They're personal. Do you have any others you are wanting to share? Would like to share?
this one is really just me thinking about, I'm very fascinated. Well, when I was younger, I was very fascinated with older people and the way they looked and the folds in their skin, and especially, like people who, had some meat on them and their hands were, they looked just very slightly bloated, but also they were, had the lines in them and the folds, and there was skin folding over other skin. And somehow or another, it made me think of, so what's the day in the life of this person? And so this is what this is about. Old woman rocking. She sits in her cloth dress, sits, cloth dress, sits. Threads of her cloth dress woven into the cloth chair, cloth rocker, woven into the cloth of the rocker. She knits, her white face over her knitting needles, her white hands, white yarn, stitching, stitching white. All day she sits and knits, her white hands, white yarn, knits, sitting in her rocker, her cloth dress, cloth chair, sits, knitting in her rocker.
I remember when I was younger being curious and fascinated somewhat with older people too. I just didn't realize I'd be one of them.
Yep, here we are.
Here we are. Surprise! I'm happy to be one of them. I'm happy to be one of them. My birth mother passed at 50 and her mother passed at 56. So I'm the first woman in 3 generations to have this honor. And I'll tell you, I feel their presence so strong.
Yeah.
You said your mother was passed away?
Yeah, she passed at 67.
I
So
gotta help my dog out here. He wants on the couch. So I've got to stop everything I'm doing and help him up. There you go, Bubba. Demanding. I'm sorry. So yeah, she passed. Did you say she passed?
yeah, she passed when she was 67, which was, she'd be in her 90s now. So she passed a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much to that. So, so so many people are juggling children, college, and parents that are aging. And heck of a lot to that. And I'm like, well, but I lost people when I was young and, didn't happen to have a relationship with and all this other stuff. So like it's give and take.
Yeah,
It's a give and take, but there's a lot of people juggling both kids and their parents, and that's a tough one, man, to find that time. Basically, um, to find this time that we're talking about to pull what is in here out, whether it be in writing, but I think it's an excellent form of energy flow to help us be healthier, mind, body, spirit. But finding that time and doing it for ourselves, and um so you have been active this all your life then. So you didn't really go through this um giving up yourself kind of thing and finding yourself last, or you kept yourself nourished throughout these years, honoring yourself in a way of
Um,
practice of some type.
I think that my identity was not wrapped up in something. Like my whole life, I've been more of that open person. And because like I when I was working, and again, it was always in marketing, except for a couple of years when I was a high school teacher. Um, I was laid off from jobs 5 times. And so, from that, I was like, okay, and I just kept going, and it never took me very long at all to find a new job. Um, and it, I guess, I did just kept going. As a mother, it was hard to not, there were times when my kids were young that I was gone 2 weeks out of the month for work. And I've always traveled for work. And so being away from, you know,
Hmm.
your safe place kind of,
Hmm.
um, at least for me, what it did is it made me create my own safe space for me.
Yeah,
Wherever I was, if I was in an
right.
airplane flying someplace or in a hotel room at night or whatever. And so, and my identity, my husband said to me, because he owned an art supply, um, art material, yeah, art supply, art gallery, custom frame shop for 30 years. And when we moved to Florida, he'd been an entrepreneur pretty much his whole life, and then came here. And he used to say to me, "Aren't you having when I retired? Aren't you just having a hard time? Um, wasn't your identity wrapped up in your work?" And I had never even thought of that. And so I thought about it, and I went, no, why would I do that? Why would I have such a, I am not my job. I never thought I was my job, so maybe because that's just my personality and that's just who I am. I didn't have a time period where I really felt lost until very recently, you know.
Mm.
And there are times now when I feel lost a little bit, but I just keep moving and then it goes away.
Well, it's awesome, and I love that. Well, I understand if you're away from, there's nothing you can do, but this way you can, uh, and that's pretty neat. So that's actually been your saving grace all these years to keep yourself fortified, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Yeah, well, you're at transition roads too. And the world's unstable right now too. So I think a lot of instability is going on right now with a lot of people just because of the circumstances in the world. But you're also at that time of life where, okay, it's different. It's different.
Right.
Um, Very cool. Let me ask you, when you said you were going to come on here, is there anything in specific that you wanted to make sure that you shared or got across with anybody? What Anything that I want you to get off this call and say, I should have said that. Is there anything specific that came up that you wanted to make sure that you said or shared or relayed?
Yeah. I do, I'm thinking this now. I really didn't have a preconceived notion of what this was going to be like. And so I didn't formulate things that I wanted to say. And so there will not be any me getting off the phone and going, oh, I should have done that, said that. But I do think that writing is for all ages. Um, from the very young. I think poetry is for all ages. Um, and I mean, the things I write about may change and be more in line with where I'm at right now. But like I said, when I, just this afternoon before I got on, I went, where are the old poems? Let me look through them again. And I felt like I said, they held up. But it is very therapeutic to get your ideas down on paper, to just put them out there, because sometimes things bother, that's no surprise. Things bother people all the time, and they just keep going around and around and around in their head, and it's just within themselves, and it's usually not a positive thing for them. And when you get it down on paper, you can look at it, but there's a distance. You can distance yourself from it enough to look at it objectively as opposed to just churning. So that's one of the reasons why I want to write more poetry.
Yeah, so that's your reason, one of your reasons. If you look at it objectively,
Yeah,
it's that space you put between it.
right.
Because you're right, we get caught up in these loops in our head, and you're right. Most of the time, they are moving pretty fast, and they're not usually that positive.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff that
Yeah.
works usually isn't.
No, and then what goes on there is other things start to come into it. Makes it even more powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah, how about that? Um, thank you so much.
thank you. I really appreciate it. And
I really enjoyed it, and I'm surprised that we haven't set a coffee date or something like that. We live close enough to be able to do that.
well, let's do it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Well, thanks again for being part of this series, but more than that, for sharing um your why and your words and your heart and your powerful poetry.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, thanks for sharing it. Thanks for shedding some light on perhaps why or how or what it can aid, how it can aid your life. And I just think that, it's important for us to share because none of us, I think we're all winging it. I think we're
Totally.
all winging it, and if there's
There's no
not
template for life.
no, we're all winging it, and if this isn't the time to kind of band together, I don't know when is. I haven't experienced a a time m- more appropriate to hold hands a little bit here and kind of drop some of the defenses and just say, hey, do you love me anyway? Do you love me anyway? But yeah, so thanks so much for all your love and for being a part of it. And do check out, sign up for some other things because there's a lot going on right now. So yeah, we're talking about please go to Zenful zenfulconversations.com, zenfulconversations.com. There's a whole list of things going on, and hope the time slot works for everybody. If you're listening in or watching, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. And Maureen, thank you again for your love. Thanks for taking part in this series.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Namaste.
much. Thank you so much. There you got it. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Thanks so much for coming by today.